and it was James Harden throwing up the peace sign, hitting those threes.
Well, you know, we had the Houston Harden and the Brooklyn Harden and the Philadelphia Harden. Now I think we saw a little bit more of the Houston Harden tonight, and I think when Philadelphia really needed that in the fourth quarter, the score started to get a little tight. It's refreshing to know, at least for this one game, that when Philadelphia turned to James Harden, he could produce like he did in Houston and Brooklyn. Up until this point, he's been more of a facilitator with the Sixers, and Joel Embiid had been imploring him, hey man, play your game, play your game. The problem was his game in Philadelphia had changed a little bit. But I think he needed a throwback for himself. You just saw the reaction, Chris, when he started hitting those big shots. He needed that for himself, too, in addition for Philadelphia.
Well, and it was the timing of it, because you mentioned Joel Embiid got off to a crazy hot start, 15 points in the first quarter. And then it was the Miami Heat defense that changed to a zone. They were fronting the post. You had Victor Oladipo, getting the steal. Guards out there fronting the post and stopping Joel Embiid. And that's when James Harden, in the second quarter, he scored 13 points. And in the fourth quarter, when Embiid couldn't get it going, it was James Harden stepping up. When they made the trade at the trade deadline, this is what was expected, the symbiotic relationship between these two guys. But you're safe to say this is the first time we've seen it come to fruition in the postseason.
Well, in 5 of his last 9 games, he failed to score 20 points. And his entire time with the Sixers, he never took 20 shots. And he had 18 tonight, so he came close enough. And again, when you look at James Harden's career after he left Oklahoma City, he's been a big-time scorer in this league. Probably just as well as anybody else. But when he came to Philadelphia, for whatever reason, he was a little bit more meek, particularly in the playoffs in the fourth quarter. He's just a little bit shy and everything. Look, he is their best passer, so they do need him to facilitate. He's a much better passer than Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey is not a pure point guard. But as I said, when they need James Harden to step up and score, he needs to do that, and tonight he did, and I think the Sixers, this is a good sign. Now, Chris, the trick is, does one game just make you ignore all the other games? Is this did he turn the corner, or is this sort of like, just a temporary thing, and then he'll revert back to a guy who's yielding too much to Joel Embiid, yielding too much to Tyrese Maxey, and not stepping up in the fourth quarters? At least this is a bright spot for Philadelphia. Hey, look. This series is tied 2-2. And a lot of people probably thought that, Miami would win in 5 games, maybe a sweep because we didn't know Joel Embiid would play. But the other positive part of this game is, aside from James Harden, Joel Embiid was forceful. I mean, he played a lot of heavy minutes. He wasn't shy about possibly getting hurt wearing the mask or anything. He was forceful defensively, offensively. This is a good sign, because from here, you figure that he's only going to be more forceful in getting back to the Joel Embiid, who was an MVP candidate during the season.
Yeah, Joel Embiid, 24-11. He had 18-11 in that Game 3 when he came back. But like you said, there was a different presence from Joel Embiid, especially coming out with those 15 points in the first quarter. But let's talk about three-point shooting, because James Harden made 6 threes. The Miami Heat, as a team, made 7. That's really where you look at it and you go, okay, see, the biggest difference in this game, because Miami came in as the, best three-point shooting team in the league by percentage, and it was the Philadelphia 76ers that had the true advantage there tonight.
Yeah, well, if you're Miami, Tyler Hero struggled a little bit. Duncan Robinson is not even playing. He's on the bench. So, and then Victor Oladipo also kind of struggled a little bit. Now, to be fair to Victor Oladipo, he really hasn't played that much for Miami this season. But yeah, I mean, it's a make-or-miss league. Philadelphia had the attempts. They had the cleaner looks. They made them. And in a tight game, those three-pointers start to add up, and it possibly makes the difference between winning and losing. And it did tonight for Philadelphia.